Welcome to Somali Nexus, where we explore the extraordinary stories, people, and cultures that shape Somali history and identity. I'm thrilled you're here for today's episode, Hidden Power: Somali Women in Medieval Times. When we think about medieval history in the Horn of Africa, the images that often come to mind are bustling ports, thriving trade routes, powerful sultans, and merchants from distant lands. Yet behind these familiar narratives lies a fascinating and often overlooked truth. Somali women were powerful forces who sustained the economy, forged political alliances, and shaped the destiny of entire communities. In this episode, we'll journey back to the 9th through 16th centuries, a period when coastal cities like Mogadishu, Zeila, Barawa, and Berbera were at the center of global trade networks connecting Africa to Arabia, Persia, India, and beyond. While men commanded ships and led caravans, women worked with remarkable skill and independence, producing valuable goods, managing market stalls, and keeping commerce flowing across vast regions. But their influence extended far beyond trade. Somali women were peace weavers, mediators, and advisors, navigating the complex world of clan politics. Through strategic marriages and community leadership, they built alliances, prevented conflicts, and protected social stability. Some even rose to legendary status, like Queen Araweelo, a symbol of female authority whose story challenges traditional narratives, or Bati del Wambara, a noble woman who took command during a time of crisis and left her mark on history. Though often absent from official records, Somali women's impact was profound and lasting. Their resilience, intelligence, and leadership continue to inspire today, reminding us that the threads of Somali history are woven with the contributions of both men and women. So stay tuned as we uncover the hidden power of Somali women in medieval times, here on Somali Nexus, a place where untold stories come to light and history comes alive. Let's begin. So when we think about medieval history, what often springs to mind? Maybe, bustling trade ports, those long caravan routes, perhaps powerful male rulers, that sort of thing. But what if I told you that, beneath this familiar narrative, there's a story just as powerful, often unseen in the official records, but absolutely fundamental to understanding those societies?
It's really true. Formal historical records, by their nature, they tend to highlight the visible leadership structures. And those were, predominantly male across many medieval cultures. But to truly grasp the nuances, the full vibrancy of a historical period, we need to dig deeper, go beyond just the surface, and maybe challenge our assumptions about who really held power and influence.
Exactly. And that's precisely our mission today. We're embarking on a deep dive. We're looking into the crucial and, often overlooked role of Somali women, how they shaped their society during the medieval period. So, roughly from the 9th to the 16th centuries, we've meticulously pulled together insights from historical accounts, fascinating old traveler narratives.
And those incredibly rich oral traditions, too.
Yeah, to try and paint a fuller picture.
Our goal here is really to unveil how these women weren't just, passive participants. They were truly vital agents in trade, in politics, and in the very social cohesion of their communities. You're going to discover, I think, that their remarkable economic savvy, their political wisdom,
And resilience too, right?
and an enduring resilience, definitely, all while navigating what was, let's face it, fundamentally a patriarchal society. But they still became incredibly influential figures.
Yeah. As we unpack this, I think you'll find some genuinely surprising details about their influence that will often go unmentioned. To really appreciate their impact, let's first set the stage a bit. From the 9th to the 16th centuries Horn of Africa, it was far more than just a geographic location. It was this dynamic crossroads where African, Arab, Persian, Indian, even Chinese influences all converged.
Yeah, it wasn't just a trade route, it was a vibrant melting pot of cultures and commerce.
It really was.
And what's truly fascinating here is how Somali coastal cities like Mogadishu, Zeila, Barawa, Berbera, they didn't just exist, they absolutely thrived. They became these immensely wealthy commercial hubs.
Right. Imagine the sheer volume of goods flowing through.
Exactly. Ivory, gold, frankincense, myrrh, animal skins, livestock products, all pouring in from the African interior. And these meant manufactured items, spices, textiles, arriving from across the vast Indian Ocean network, linking Asia and Arabia.
And during the same period, Islam spread rapidly through the region. It brought with it new legal and cultural frameworks. So what impact did that have on women's standing?
Oh, it was incredibly significant. Crucially, women gained protections and rights under Islamic law that were, well, quite progressive for the time, like the ability to own property and inherit wealth independently.
Independently, that's key.
Absolutely key. This was a profound distinction, especially when you compare it to, say, many European feudal societies back then, where a woman's property often just legally became her husband's upon marriage. Somali women, largely thanks to Islamic law, maintained this distinct economic identity and power. It gave them a significant advantage, really, right from the outset.
Okay, so even within what was still a clan-based and predominantly patriarchal society, where men typically held the formal leadership roles and controlled the livestock wealth, their reality was more fluid.
Exactly. They inhabited both the bustling urban centers and the expansive pastoral hinterlands. They adapted diverse and absolutely essential roles. It wasn't a monolithic experience at all. It was dynamic, multifaceted.
Right. Speaking of essential roles, let's dive into how women became these economic powerhouses, truly from dairy to diplomacy. So, in pastoral Somali society, livestock was the bedrock of wealth. We get that, but you're saying it was the women who became the custodians of its most important byproducts.
That's right. While men might have formerly owned the camels, the cattle, the goats, women took charge of the milking, the producing, and crucially, the marketing of dairy goods.
Okay, like fresh milk, butter.
Yes, and especially ghee, that clarified butter, which was highly prized both locally and definitely for trade.
So, how did this translate into actual economic power for them? Was it just household stuff?
Oh no, this wasn't just about household chores. This was the foundation of their financial independence. You have to picture a rural Somali village, maybe 12th century. Sun rises. Women are expertly milking their herds. Their skilled hands then churn butter, prepare that really precious ghee for sale. These women weren't merely homemakers, they were entrepreneurs,
Entrepreneurs.
selling their dairy products not just to sustain their families, but also to traders, to caravans passing through. This gave them direct access to income. It ensured their own economic autonomy.
Wow, that's a powerful image. Their own economic independence, literally built on, well, butter. And this economic ingenuity wasn't just confined to the pastoral lands? Right. How did it show up in the cities?
Well, in the bustling markets like in Mogadishu, women operated small businesses selling everything from agricultural produce they might grow to pottery, woven mats, textiles.
Okay, we know travelers like Ibn Battuta visited Mogadishu around 1331. He described these vibrant markets. Did he mention women?
Well, his accounts primarily noted men, which is typical for male travelers of that era. But studies of East African coastal society strongly suggest women played active roles, often perhaps behind the scenes, managing stalls, negotiating prices, maybe even arranging shipments.
Right, so even if they weren't explicitly named by these foreign male travelers, the evidence points to them being a vital part of the economic engine.
Yeah,
And you mentioned a specific textile earlier.
yes, there was this fine fabric known throughout the region called Hamar cloth, named after the vibrant Hamar district of Mogadishu, where it was predominantly woven by women artisans. And this wasn't just any old cloth. It was prized for its intricate patterns, its exceptional quality, often a real staple in trade.
That's fascinating. And maybe one of the most subtle but strategically important roles women played was in hospitality, using it as a trade tool.
Absolutely. When foreign merchants arrived in Somali ports, women were central to everything, preparing food, organizing lodging, facilitating those crucial social interactions within households.
How much of this was just, custom versus a deliberate strategy?
I think it was far more than just custom. It was deeply strategic. Imagine a merchant, maybe from Arabia, arriving at Zeila's harbor, completely new to the city. A local family hosts them. It's the women who prepare the traditional meals, manage the household, make sure the guest feels respected. Safe.
Building trust?
Exactly. This hospitality was instrumental in forging personal and commercial bonds, the kind of bonds that could quite literally make or break trade deals. It built trust, smoothed commerce in a way formal negotiation alone just couldn't.
Right. And all of this economic activity, it was underpinned by that significant legal advantage you mentioned earlier. Under Islamic law, Somali women could own and inherit property independently of male relatives. Why was that so critical?
It's such a game changer. As you said, specific records of individual female merchants are rare. We don't have lots of names, but the legal and cultural environment made their extensive economic activity not just plausible, but, highly likely. And perhaps more profoundly, think about when men were away on long-distance trade missions, maybe military campaigns. These could take months, even years. Women often assumed full control of family businesses and property.
And we weren't just managing the household, they were running the show.
Pretty much. It meant entire trade networks, family fortunes. They didn't just collapse during these long male absences. It provided an economic resilience, a stability that, frankly, many other patriarchal societies struggled to maintain.
That's a huge point. We've seen their formidable economic impact, but their influence, it definitely extended beyond trade. Often without formal titles, Somali women wielded significant political prowess, especially as peace weavers, through marriage alliances. How did those alliances work politically?
Well, in Somali clan society, marriages were rarely just about two individuals falling in love. They were powerful political tools. Women married into other clans became these living links.
Living links?
Yeah, facilitating communication, peace alliances between groups that might otherwise be competing or even fighting. And they weren't just passive pawns in these arrangements. No way. They were active agents who had to maintain these vital relationships. They could effectively negotiate between their birth clan and their marital clan, often bridging divides. And
That's a critical role. And you mentioned Somali customary law. Heer actually codified this role as mediators. Can you tell us a bit more about Heer itself and how this particular aspect worked?
sure, Somali customary law, known as Heer, it wasn't just a set of, unwritten rules. It was a deeply ingrained, orally transmitted legal framework. It governed pretty much everything from clan disputes to social roles, and crucially, it specifically codified women's role as mediators.
So it was official in a way.
In the context of customary law, yes. They, along with children and religious figures, were often protected from violence and conflicts. They were uniquely respected as emissaries of peace. This legal and cultural recognition empowered women to intervene in disputes to prevent bloodshed, a truly vital role in maintaining social cohesion within what was, a complex clan system.
So even without holding those formal political titles, they clearly held immense informal political influence. Like the wives and mothers of clan chiefs and sultans, they often served as advisors. Right. Councils behind the scenes.
Absolutely, shaping decisions through their wisdom, their networks. And we also have the specific term Abio. Yeah, it refers to respected elder women. These weren't just old women. Abio carried immense moral and social capital within the clan. Think of them like revered community matriarchs. Their wisdom was sought on everything from complex family feuds to, tribal strategy.
So their power wasn't in decrees, but in respect and influence.
Exactly. Their power lay in that unchallenged respect and their ability to influence outcomes through counsel, through negotiation. It really makes you wonder how many other societies had similar sort of unrecorded informal power structures like that?
Definitely. And we shouldn't overlook religious authority either. Religious women, Shikas for instance, played significant roles in guiding spiritual life, interpreting Islamic law, teaching. How much did their respected spiritual status translate into broader social and political influence?
Quite a bit. It seems their respected status as spiritual guides often extended pretty naturally into social and political influence. They could arbitrate disputes, offer counsel, shape community norms through their moral authority, their interpretations of religious texts. Their word carried weight, even outside of those formal political channels.
Okay, now let's turn to some truly exceptional figures. Women whose stories, whether they're mythical or historical, really illuminate the potential for female leadership. And a discussion of Somali women in history wouldn't be complete without Queen Araweelo. She's a figure shrouded in myth, but deeply embedded in Somali cultural memory. What does her legend tell us?
Oh, Araweelo. Her story circulated widely, especially during the medieval period. It portrays her as this fierce queen who established a matriarchal kingdom, actually reversed traditional gender roles.
Reverse them? How so?
Well, the tales describe her punishing men harshly, elevating women to positions of power, sometimes depicted with rather extreme measures. But what's so powerful about this legend, even though it's clearly mythical, is how it served as this pot symbol of female strength, female agency. It inspired generations of Somali women with the idea that women could indeed lead and command.
It's fascinating how myths can embody and perpetuate cultural ideals like that, ideals of strength. Okay, then we have a more concrete historical figure, Bati del Wambara, a noblewoman from the 16th century, a Dal Sultanate, daughter of the governor of Zeila, married to the famous Imam Ahmad ibn Ibrahim al-Ghazi, known as Ahmed Gure. What happened to her after her husband died?
Right. This is where her story really stands out historically. When her husband, the Imam, died in battle in 1543, Bati didn't just retreat into the background, as many might have expected. Instead, she took charge of the remaining army.
She took command of the army?
Yes, she led a strategic retreat to preserve lives and continue the resistance against the Ethiopian forces. This wasn't just, an act of bravery. It was a masterful display of political and military skills. She completely transcended traditional roles and took direct command in a time of profound crisis. She's still celebrated as a heroine in Somali history.
Wow. What an incredible example of leadership emerging right when it was most needed. And it's important to acknowledge, isn't it, that oral histories and cultural practices suggest there were many other women holding significant, though maybe unsung influence.
Absolutely. Widows who inherited and managed significant wealth. Those elder Abio advising clan leaders, female religious figures, their influence was woven into the fabric of society.
And the possibility of women acting as regents, maybe interim rulers.
Yes, that's strongly supported too, especially when heirs were minors. We see analogous examples in neighboring cultures. And given the societal structures we've talked about, the ones that enabled their influence, it's entirely plausible. It just shows that true power isn't always found in the loudest voices or, the most visible titles.
So, what does this all mean for how we understand medieval Somali society? This deep dive into the history of Somali women in the medieval era, it really reveals a profound story. Endurance, adaptability, undeniable influence, often in the face of significant societal constraints.
Their contributions to commerce didn't just support households. They actively helped fuel the prosperity of these powerful trade cities in the Horn of Africa. They connected Somalia to this vast network spanning continents.
And politically, they shaped alliances. They preserved peace and, as we've seen with Bati del Wambara, even led armies.
Exactly. Although they're often invisible in the formal records, their impact was profound and lasting. Understanding their roles, it radically broadens our perspective on medieval Somali society. And it really highlights the critical importance of doing gender-inclusive history. It challenges us to look beyond those obvious narratives.
Yeah, absolutely. And the legacy truly continues, doesn't it? Today, Somali women continue to play essential roles in trade, in governance, in community leadership. And it feels like a living testament to their medieval predecessors' enduring legacy of strength, intelligence, and resilience.
It really does. And perhaps this journey through medieval Somalia raises an important question for you, the listener. What other invisible histories are waiting to be uncovered in different cultures, different time periods? And how might their revelation reshape our understanding of the past and maybe even inform our actions in the present?